mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, pero sa sinakalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihingi, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di maghihingi. Lumalang araw ng walhagin pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling ko. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
A prayer for teachers. Giver of all wisdom and greatest of all teachers, look upon our teachers with love. Grant them the resolve to nurture our eager minds and to never give up on us who fall behind. Bless their hearts, for they rejoice when we succeed, and encourage us when we fail. Endow them with gentle patience, for the path of learning is never easy. Kindle a spirit of passion in them. It is the flame that ignites the love of learning in us. Help them see the potential in each student. Their belief in us means much more than the grade we make. Instill in them a commitment to keep on learning. It shows us to not fear new knowledge and experiences. Inspire them to touch the future. They influence how big a dream we dream for ourselves. Bless our teachers who have come before, for their work endures to this day. Let the light of your example shine upon all teachers, to build up with their words, to love with their mind, to share with their heart. Amen.
If you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. Today, no one can stop us from learning. A pleasant morning, everyone. Welcome to our Division Webinar Series on Science Content and Teaching Strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies for Grade 9 Science for Quarter 3. I am Ma'am Emilu Vallester from Samal National High School, Maine.
Good morning, and I am Mark Anthony Santos from Orani National High School, Maine, and we are your moderators for this division webinar. We would like to acknowledge our OIC Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Roland M. Fronda, our OIC Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Sir William Roderick Falurin, our CID Chief, Dr. Milagros Peñaflor, and of course, to our Education Program Supervisor, Dr. Edwin Riel Bermilio.
We also want to recognize our school principals, department heads, our facilitators, and of course, our science teachers and learners who will benefit a lot from this webinar. Magandang umaga pong muli sa ating lahat.
The objective of today's webinar is to augment the content knowledge and pedagogical skills of science teachers in teaching the subject matter.
Another is to provide all science teachers the content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies that can be used in this time of our new normal education.
That's right. We have simple rules for this webinar, and these are the following: be on time, be committed, be attentive, and of course, please share this webinar so your colleagues will also learn and be informed. Let us all be reminded that we need to listen attentively because after this webinar, we'll be answering 20 questions as our assessment. You may click the link given for assessment or use the QR code for you to answer the questions. You will also be requested to access the evaluation link to rate these proceedings. This too will serve as your attendance for you to receive your certificate for this particular webinar.
To diminish the agony of waiting, Sir Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
let us proceed to our webinar proper. But before that, let us first hear the welcome remarks of the man behind this brilliant program, a hardworking and dedicated education program supervisor in science, no other than Dr. Edwin Riel Bermilio.
Yes, sir. Good
Good
morning,
morning
sir.
po, sir.
Magandang buhay po sa lahat. My respect and recognition to our newly appointed OIC Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Roland M. Fronda, to our OIC Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Sir William Roderick Fallorin, to our Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, Dr. Milagros M. Flor, to our education partners in SDO Bataan, my co-education program supervisors and public schools district supervisors, to the science department heads and elementary school coordinating principals, to the program management team per grade level, to our science teachers and learners, isang ligtas, malusog at mapagpalang araw po sa lahat. In response to the current situation and in the rise of the COVID-19 positive, education must continue. The SDO Bataan Science Department has been instrumental in finding new ways to ensure learning continues amidst the challenges brought by the pandemic. Thus, the SDO Bataan conducts the third quarter division webinar series in the context of the most essential learning competencies that aims to enhance again the content, knowledge, and pedagogical skills of science teachers and alternative learning system or ALS teachers in teaching science from grades 3 to 12. Likewise, it provides learning opportunities to all science teachers for third quarter using various platforms and modalities that teaching and learning made available at all levels. Amidst the educational challenges, our dear science teachers are finding and developing various online and offline learning materials, learning about the working of video conferencing tools to be able to meet students regularly. The creative strategies of our science teachers in applying different approaches learned from the previous science webinar series are commendable, that involve a paradigm shift of pedagogy. It provided more opportunities for collaborative tasks, mode of assessments and feedback, and open up possibilities of rethinking the ways teachers and learners are involved in teaching and learning. Learning can be challenging for all stakeholders. Our parents who undoubtedly think differently about how to equip their children in the virtual learning space, how to create structures and routines that allow their children to be successful, and how to support their learning journey while considering the emotional well-being as well. By following the interactive, collaborative approach, we are confident that the learners, parents, and teachers will co-create the learning process for the better. With the effort in providing developmental approaches for teachers and learners, we need to invest in the new adaptive learning methods and make it work. We owe it to our Filipino learners. Maraming salamat po. Stay safe and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Sir Edwin, for that warm and wonderful opening remarks. Another message will be shared to us by our enthusiastic and ever supportive curriculum implementation chief, no other than Dr. Milagros Peñaflor. Good morning,
Good morning
ma'am.
po, ma'am.
Hello, my dear teachers. Kumusta na kayo? Parang kailan lang nagsisimula tayo. Ngayon, we are halfway the school year. Welcome to the third quarter of delivering engaging science lessons and creating exciting learning experiences for learners. I am sure the 2 quarters have taught us strategies on how we could effectively do science teaching. This pandemic has equipped you with new and different strategies and techniques for teaching science. How we make our children do hands-on and minds-on activities even at the confines of their homes is quite a great challenge. And for this, more than ever before, we are counting on you, my dear science teachers. Continue on your battle against this pandemic. The struggle against resources, distance are all but temporary. Like the recent cries, we too shall rise over these challenges. My gratitude to you all, Sir Edwin, my dear department heads, principals, and teachers. Salamat po sa inyong malasakit para sa batang Pilipino. God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Doc Mila. Dear participants, Grade 9 Science Teachers, Ma'am Emmy, ready ka na ba na madagdagan pa ang iyong kaalaman? Dahil alam mo ba, bukod sa talagang mahuhusay ang ating mga facilitators ay pinaghandaan nilang mabuti ang webinar na ito.
Talaga namang, Sir Mark, no? Talagang pinaghandaan ng ating mga facilitators ang kanilang mga discussion ngayong araw. Kaya alam ko ang ating mga science teachers at learners na nanonood ngayon ay excited na rin
Tama ka
na
dyan, ma'am.
matuto. Sir Mark, to begin our session, let us welcome our first facilitator. Our facilitator will share her expertise in the topic volcanoes. She is a teacher 3 from Balsic National High School. Let us call Ma'am Ayi Arbostillo.
Good day, everyone. I am Ayi Reyes Bustillos, Teacher 3 at Balsic National High School. This session, we will be talking about volcano. For our content standard, the learner should be able to demonstrate understanding of volcanoes found in the Philippines. And for our most essential learning competencies, the learner should be able to describe the different types of volcanoes and volcanic eruption. Now we may ask, what is a volcano? We may have encountered a lot of definitions and characteristics given about volcanoes, but let us take the meaning given by Oxford Languages. A volcano is a mountain or hill, typically conical, having a crater or vent through which lava, rock fragments, hot vapor, and gas are being or have been erupted from the Earth's crust. Beneath a volcano, liquid magma containing dissolved gases rises through cracks in the Earth's crust which help shape the Earth. Volcanoes are scattered across the planet. Most volcanoes, whether on land or underwater, are located where tectonic plates meet. In fact, the Ring of Fire, a path that traces the boundaries between several tectonic plates around the Pacific Ocean, contains about 75% of the planet's volcanoes. The Philippines is said to be located along this path. Hence, it is a home to many volcanoes. It sits on a unique tectonic setting, ideal to volcanism and earthquake activity. It is situated at the boundaries of two tectonic plates, the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate. According to PHIVOLCS, or the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, our country has more than 100 volcanoes as of 2013. To understand better the physical features of a volcano, we have its external parts. A volcano usually has a summit, its slope, and base. The summit is its highest point or peak. The slope of the surface of a volcano is related to the physical characteristics of the material composing the surface. From this picture of a cross-section of a volcano, we can see more of its parts, which include a crater or caldera, depending on its diameter or scope. A crater is a basin above a volcano's vent, while a caldera is a bowl-shaped structure that resembles a crater, but is much larger and forms when a volcano collapses in on itself. The magma chamber, where hot molten magma is contained from underneath the Earth's crust. When a volcano erupts, this chamber is drained. The central vent is the weak point in the Earth's crust, where hot magma has been able to rise from the magma chamber and reach the surface. Magma flows out from the crater at the top or sometimes emerges at a secondary site on the side of a volcano, resulting in a flank eruption. According to PHIVOLCS, there are several ways by which volcanoes can be classified. Let us learn some of it today. One classification is according to its frequency of eruption, which identifies volcanoes as active, extinct, or dormant or inactive. Active volcanoes are those that erupt occasionally or has erupted within the last 10,000 years based on the age of volcanic rocks, which is determined through radiometric dating. Extinct volcanoes have not erupted or has no proof of eruption in historical times. Inactive or dormant volcanoes are those that have no record of eruption for the last 10,000 years, and a long period of inactivity is evident from weathering and erosion of deep and long valleys. Some of the most active volcanoes in the Philippines include Mount Pinatubo in Zambales, with its most recent eruption recorded in 1991, and is being monitored and observed closely. According to the Pinatubo Volcano Bulletin, posted last March 4, 2021, it has been raised from Alert Level 0 to Alert Level 1, which is low-level unrest. And since the latter part of January of this year has detected a total of 1,722 imperceptible earthquakes beneath the Pinatubo edifice. Another is Mount Mayon in Albay, with a total of 49 recorded eruptions, the last of which is in May 2013. Since September of 2017, it was reported to be on Alert Level 2 and was closely monitored daily with posted bulletin. Last July 2020, it has been lowered to Alert Level 1. The third active volcano is Taal in Batangas, which recently erupted last January 12, 2020, 43 years after its previous eruption in 1977. Here are some of the examples of dormant or inactive volcanoes found in the Philippines. The first one is Mount Cabaluyan, located in Leyte. Mount Cocoro, found in Palawan. And Mount Arayat in Pampanga. Another classification of volcanoes is through its volcanic features and location. We have shield volcanoes, cinder volcanoes, and composite or stratovolcanoes. Shield volcanoes are formed by the accumulation of lava that oozes out from a volcano with a broad, slightly domed structure that resembles a warrior shield. It is built of successive flows of low-viscosity basaltic lava. Cinder volcanoes, on the other hand, are the most abundant of these volcano types. They are small, straight-sided volcanoes made of volcanic fragments ejected when gas-rich basaltic lava erupts. Composite volcanoes are large, nearly perfect slope structure formed from alternate solidification of both lava and pyroclastic deposits. Another classification of volcanoes is through the strength and characteristic of volcanic eruption, which includes phreatic or hydrothermal, which is a stream-driven eruption as the hot rocks come in contact with water. It is usually short-lived, characterized by ash columns, but may be an onset of a larger eruption. Another type is the phreatomagmatic, which is characterized as a violent eruption due to the contact between water and magma, and as a result, a large column of very fine ash and high-speed and sideway emission of pyroclastic called base surges are observed. The third type is strombolian, which occurs when basaltic lava has higher viscosity and higher gas content, which is a periodic weak to violent eruption characterized by fountain lava. The fourth type is volcanian, characterized by tall eruption columns that reach up to 20 kilometers high with pyroclastic flow and ashfall tephra. And the last type is plinian, which is an excessively explosive type of eruption of gas and pyroclastic. Some of the materials produced by volcanic eruptions include gas, lava, and tephra. Volcanic gases form a dissolved component of magma that is released to the atmosphere in large quantities during eruptions. The main component of volcanic gas emissions is water vapor, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen fluoride. Minor amounts of nitrogen, methane, argon, and helium can also be degassed from magma. Volcanic gases form aerosols that can both cool down the Earth's atmosphere and deplete its ozone concentration for a period of time. Lava or lava flows are rivers of incandescent of molten rock or lava moving downslope or away from the eruption vent. The thickness and shape of a lava flow depends on its viscosity. Viscosity is the material's resistance to flow. It is also described as the liquid's thickness and stickiness. The greater the viscosity, the thicker the flow, and the shorter the distance it travels before solidifying. And the last type is tephra. Collectively, loose material thrown from a volcano is referred to as tephra or pyroclastic debris. Individual fragments are referred to in general terms as pyroclasts. Let us watch the following video to learn how volcanoes erupt as well as its effects.
The journey of these emissions begins deep underground in the Earth's core. The core, which can burn as hot as the surface of the sun, transfers its heat to the surrounding rocky mantle. In doing so, the heat melts some of the rock. This molten rock, or magma, is lighter than the surrounding solid rock layer, so it rises through the mantle. The magma then escapes through vents in the Earth's crust, causing volcanic eruptions.
Volcanic eruptions can be described as a beautiful disaster. It can be both devastating and dangerous, yet its aftermath could lead to scenic and majestic landforms which help shape the earth and provide nutrients to nearby soil, making the land fertile. But despite the advantages people get from volcanic eruptions, the major concern now is how to reduce the negative effects it poses to human lives and other living organisms dwelling in its area. We need to be ready, informed, and alert. For us to be prepared, here are some tips before a volcanic eruption. Be prepared for the hazards that can accompany volcanic eruptions, like mud flows and flash floods, landslides and rockfalls, earthquakes, ashfall and acid rain, and tsunami. Learn about your community warning systems and emergency plans. Make evacuation plans. If you live in a known volcanic hazard area, plan a route out and have a backup route in mind. Develop an emergency communication plan. In case family members are separated from one another during a volcanic eruption, which is a real possibility during the day when adults are at work and children are at school, you should have a plan for getting back together. You may ask for a relative that lives far away from your area because after a disaster, it's often easier to call long distance. Make sure everyone knows the name, address, and phone number of your contact person. Have disaster supplies on hand, like flashlight and extra batteries, first aid kit and manual, emergency food and water, and non-electric can opener, essential medicines, dust mask, and sturdy shoes. Get a pair of goggles and a throwaway breathing mask for every member of the household in case of ashfall. And contact your local emergency management office for more information on volcanoes. Here are some tips that you can do during a volcanic eruption. Follow the evacuation order issued by authorities. Avoid areas downwind and river valleys downstream of the volcano. If you are caught indoors, close all windows, doors, and dampers. Put all machinery inside a garage or barn, and bring animals and livestock into closed shelters. If you are trapped outdoors, seek shelter indoors. If caught in a rockfall, roll into a ball to protect your head. If caught near a stream, be aware of mud flows. Move up slope, especially if you hear the roar of a mud flow. Protect yourself during ashfall. You may wear long-sleeve shirts and long pants. Use goggles to protect your eyes. Use a dust mask or hold a damp cloth over your face to help breathing. Keep your car or truck engines off. Stay out of the area defined as restricted zone by government officials. The effects of volcanic eruption can be experienced many miles from a volcano. Mud flows, flash flooding, wild land fires, and even badly hot ash flow can reach you even if you cannot see the volcano during an eruption. Avoid river valleys and low-lying areas. Trying to watch an erupting volcano up close is a deadly idea. Listen to a battery-operated radio or television for the latest emergency information. After a volcanic eruption, if possible, Stay away from volcanic ashfall areas. When outside, you may cover your nose and mouth. Volcanic ash can irritate your respiratory system. You may wear goggles to protect your eyes and keep your skin covered to avoid irritation from contact with ash. Clear roofs of ashfall. Ashfall is very heavy and can cause buildings to collapse. You must exercise caution when working on a roof. Avoid driving in heavy ashfall. Driving will stir up more ash that can clog your engines and stall your vehicle. If you have a respiratory ailment, avoid contact with any amount of ash. Stay indoors until local health officials advise it is safe to go outside. Remember to help your neighbors who may require special assistance like infants, elderly people, and people with disabilities. Well, that's it. But before I say goodbye, I would like to leave you with a quote that is very much connected to what we want our students to learn and be able to keep in mind, especially during emergencies and times like this that we are facing, the COVID-19 pandemic. We cannot stop natural disasters, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So many lives wouldn't have to be lost if there was enough disaster preparedness. Keep safe and always be alert and prepared. That ends our discussion for today. I hope you learned something. Thank you and mabuhay! If you have any questions, you may contact me through my Gmail account ie.bustillos@deped.gov.ph.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Ai, for that wonderful and comprehensive discussion on volcanoes. Alam mo, Ma'am Emmy, ang ganda na itinuro kanina sa atin ni Ma'am Ai. Ang sabi niya, ang mga volcanic eruptions ay beautiful disaster. Totoo naman na mapanganib at mapaminsala ang mga volcanic eruptions, pero hindi natin maitatanggi na meron itong mga pakinabang para sa atin. Tinuturoan tayo ni Ma'am Ai na tumingin tayo sa positive side ng bawat pangyayari. Gaya ng paglipas ng panahon, mga bato at volcanic ashes na ibinuga ng isang bulkan, depende sa kanilang chemical composition, ay maaaring maging matabang lupa na po pwedeng pagtaniman. Ganon din, ibang mga materyales nito ay maaaring gamitin for construction purposes at marami pang pakinabang.
Sir, ang maganda rin po doon sa part ng discussion ni Ma'am Ai, yung pag-discuss niya po, sir, ng updates ng ating mga active volcanoes tulad po nung Bulkang Taal, Mayon, at yung Pinatubo. No po, talagang makaka-relate tayo, especially dun din sa sinabi rin ni Ma'am Ai na preparations, na po, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Nabanggit niya rin po yung gagawin natin before, during, and after the volcanic eruption. So, napakahalaga po na maibahagi po sa ating mga learners, tas mai-recall din ng ating mga teachers na ito po pala ang ating mga dapat na ginagawa at gagawin. 'Di ba, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Pakahusay. Dahil po dyan sa inyong presentation, Ma'am Ai, saludo kami dahil napakahusay ng inyong presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Muli, Ma'am Ai. Sir, pakilala mo na po ang ating susunod na facilitator.
Yes, ma'am. Our next facilitator will discuss climate. She is a teacher too from Orani National High School, Maine. Co-teacher ko to. She is Ma'am Diane Carla Reyes. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Division Webinar Series on Science Content and Teaching Strategies in the context of most essential learning competencies for grade 9 science teachers. I'm Diane Carla G. Reyes, Teacher 2 of Orani National High School, Maine. Our most essential learning competencies. Content standard. The learners demonstrate understanding of factors that affect climate and the effects of changing climate and how to adapt accordingly. Objectives. The learners should be able to explain how different factors affect the climate of an area and describe certain climatic phenomena that occur on a global level. But before we start, I want to ask you these questions. What are the things you usually consider whenever you plan to have a picnic, you want to travel, or you want to go on a vacation? Most probably, you will consider the time, place, and most of all, the weather. One of the things which affect our day-to-day plans is based from weather, right? With the clothes to wear, food we eat, or even the events we attend. And it has something to do with our topic for today. It's about climate. The 5 factors affecting climate. Both weather and climate has something to do with the atmospheric condition of an area. But what is the difference between the two? What is the difference between weather and climate? Weather is the condition of the atmosphere at a specific place and time. This includes sunshine, rain, cloud cover, winds, hail, snow, and the likes. While climate is the general pattern of weather in a certain area over a long period of time. These conditions include average temperature, air pressure, humidity, and days of sunshine for a period of 30 years. The weather in the country is studied by PAG-ASA, or the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, in which they gather data such as wind speed, temperature, and atmospheric pressure to provide an accurate weather prediction in an area. These are the factors which mainly affect the weather. How about climate? There are 5 factors affecting climate. First, latitude. Second, altitude. Third, distance from bodies of water. Fourth, topography. And last, ocean currents. Let us start with latitude. Latitude is a geographic coordinate that specifies the north-south position of a point on the Earth's surface. If you still remember in your grade 8 Araling Panlipunan subject, you were taught on how to locate countries in the globe using the latitude and longitude of that area. But how does latitude affect climate? The equator divides the planet into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. The equator is where the most of the sun's rays is directed. But since the planet is tilted 23.5 degrees of its axis, this drastically affects the climate. But how? Areas located near the equator experiences warm climate. So this is the equator, and these are the countries that experiences warm climate. Like in the Philippines. But can you locate where is the Philippines here? Very good. So this is the Philippines, and we are also experiencing warm climate. While areas located near or within the poles such as Arctic in the north and Antarctica in the south experiences cold climate. Another thing, the shape of our planet has direct impact why areas near the equator receives more heat because the planet is oblate spheroid. That's why areas near the equator are significantly nearer to the sun than the poles to receive heat. So we can conclude that when the area is close to the equator, the air temperature is higher. while the area further from the equator, the air temperature is lower. So let's move with the second factor affecting climate. Altitude. Altitude is the vertical elevation of an object above a surface, such as sea level or land. Have you experienced going to Baguio or to Manila? How would you compare the temperature of the two places? Why Baguio is significantly colder than Manila? If you have been to Baguio, you need to travel in zigzag road, right? Why? Because Baguio has higher elevation compared to Manila. We can see in this table that Baguio is 1,400 meters above sea level, while its annual average temperature is 16.0 degrees Celsius. While on the other hand, Manila has an elevation of 10 meters above sea level, while its annual average temperature is 27.7 degrees Celsius. With altitude, we are comparing the elevation of an area based on the sea level. Since we drive upward in going to Baguio, the elevation of that area is high. Now, what is the relationship of the temperature and the altitude of an area? How does altitude affect climate? As the altitude increases, the air temperature decreases. The higher the altitude, the lower the temperature. The lower the altitude, the higher the temperature. Why is it getting colder when you are in higher location? That is because for every 1,000 meters, there is a drop of 6.5 degrees Celsius. That's why, as the altitude increases, the atmospheric pressure becomes less. Let us see this picture. This is Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. It stands 5,895 meters above sea level. The peak of the mountain is covered with ice even if Africa is located near the equator. Our second picture. Are you familiar with this? Yes, this is the Lourdes Grotto located in Baguio. And Baguio is considered as the summer capital of the Philippines. Why? Because many people visit Baguio because of its cold climate. Third, we have mountain climbers. Very good. They wear jacket and thick clothes when they go up because it is colder in higher areas, such as mountains. Now, let us move with the third factor affecting climate, and that is distance from bodies of water. The climate of the place is influenced by the surrounding bodies of water. How does distance from bodies of water affect climate? Places that are near the bodies of water have moderate climate as the body of water regulates the temperature. Soil absorbs heat faster than water. At the same time, soil releases heat faster compared to water. This slow absorption and release of heat by body of water greatly affect the climate. Even as both soil and water absorb the same amount of heat, the temperature of water rises more slowly than of the soil. We have two kinds of breezes, the sea breeze and the land breeze. So let us have first the sea breeze. It happens during daytime. Because soil heats up faster than water, the air temperature above the sea is lower than above the ground during daytime. Warm air moves out from the land, going to the sea. So there will be a cooler, denser air flowing from over the water. Thus, places without a body of water nearby tend to have a higher air temperature during daytime. And land breeze happens during nighttime. At night, soil cools down faster than water. So air temperature above the ground is lower than above the sea. Warm air flows from the sea going to the land. So there will be cooler, denser air from the land creating an offshore wind. So the drop in the air temperature above the ground is moderated. Places that are far from the bodies of water have extreme climates, as there is no immediate bodies of water that will help to circulate the movement of cold and warm air. Water also absorbs more heat in warm days and slowly releases it in cold days. During summer, areas that are near body of water will have moderate temperature because water absorbs more heat. Similarly, during winter, surrounding water slowly releases heat, causing the cooling effect to become lesser than normal in the nearby land mass. Let's move with the fourth factor affecting climate, topography. A mountain is an example of a topographical feature of the land. How does topography affect climate? Mountainous areas greatly affect the amount of precipitation in a certain region. Here, the wind is blocked by the mountain, forcing it to move upward. As it moves up, the water vapor condenses and forms clouds. This will result in the precipitation in the windward side. The air moves down towards the opposite region called the leeward side. The cold air mass starts to absorb heat and becomes warm and dry. As the result, the area near the leeward side becomes dry and has less precipitation. The dry region on the leeward side is called the region of rain shadow. Vegetation in these areas includes desert plants and grassland. And the last factor affecting climate is ocean currents. An ocean current is a continuous directed movement of seawater generated by a number of forces acting upon the water. How does ocean current affect climate? In the northern hemisphere, the current flows in a clockwise direction. So this is the northern hemisphere, and the ocean currents are moving in clockwise direction. While in the southern hemisphere, the current flows in counterclockwise direction. So this is the southern hemisphere, and the ocean currents are flowing in counterclockwise direction. These clockwise and counterclockwise of ocean currents are caused by Coriolis effect. When ocean current carries warm water, the air above it becomes warmer. Ocean currents that flow away from the equator carry warm water. The air above the water has higher temperature. When ocean currents that bring cold water moves toward the coastal region, the temperature of that area decreases as the warmer air from the land flows to the sea, resulting in a cold climate. When this ocean current moves toward the coastal region, the temperature of that area becomes lower. For example, the southwestern part of Singapore and Indonesia have lower temperature because of the cold air brought by the West Australian current. Now, the warm Kuroshio current that comes from the northern eastern part of the Philippines, this is the Philippines, brings warm water. This also raises the temperature of places in the southeastern part of Japan. So this is Japan. So we can say that warm currents that move from the equator towards the poles carry warm water. While on the other hand, the cold currents that travel from the poles toward the equator carry cold water. Again, these are the 5 factors affecting climate: latitude, altitude, distance from bodies of water, topography, and ocean currents. To know if you understand our lesson, let's have a short activity. I will give situation and try to identify which of the 5 factors are being described or have something to do with the situation. Let us start with number 1. Kamchatka Current brings cold water to northeastern part of Japan, making the temperature lower. Kuroshio Current brings warm water towards southern part of Japan, making the temperature higher. What's your answer? Latitude, altitude, distance from bodies of water, topography, or ocean currents? Very good. That is ocean currents. Number 2. Due to the tilting of the Earth's axis, places near the equator receive more heat, making the air temperature higher. What's your answer? Latitude, altitude, distance from the bodies of water, topography, or ocean currents? Very good. The answer is latitude. Number 3. Since it barely rains on the leeward side, the mountain is said to form a rain shadow on this side. Without rain to cool it down, this side of the mountain also has higher temperature. What's your answer? Latitude, altitude, distance from bodies of water, topography, or ocean currents? Very good. The answer is topography. Number 4. Baguio is said to be the summer capital of the Philippines because it is always colder there compared to other places here in the Philippines. What's your answer? Latitude, altitude, distance from the bodies of water, topography, or ocean currents? Very good. The answer is altitude. Lastly, number 5. A body of water circulates the warm air and cold air. It absorbs more heat and can slowly release heat, making the change in temperature of a country moderate. What's your answer? Latitude, altitude, distance from the bodies of water, topography, or ocean currents? Very good. The answer is distance from the bodies of water. Very good. Since you already understand our topic, let's move with the next discussion. I will show some pictures and I want you to contemplate on this. Let us look at these pictures. This was taken 2011 while this was taken 2014. Can you compare the pictures? Very good. The water level on the left is significantly higher compared on the right. How about these photos? The upper photo was taken 2005 while the lower photo was taken 1920. Can you see the difference? Yes, there is more ice on the lower photo compared to the upper photo. And lastly, compare these two photos. What can you say? The upper photo has more vegetation compared to the lower photo. What can you say about the pictures that I have shown you? Yes, we can say that there are changes happening in our surroundings, and it has something to do with our next discussion. It's about climate change. And I want you to watch this video and take down important notes about climate change.
This is Earth, the planet in our solar system that we live on. However, our planet is not on a good path for continuing to sustain life. The Earth is facing the accelerating detrimental effect of climate change, also referred to as global warming. Well, what exactly is climate change? Climate change is defined as a long-term change in the Earth's overall temperature with massive and permanent ramifications. Climate scientists believe that this isn't caused naturally by the Earth, but by human activity. Earth's atmosphere consists of gases such as oxygen and nitrogen, and other gases known as greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. Incoming light from the sun hits the Earth's surface. The Earth absorbs some of that energy, heating the surface of the planet. The rest of that energy gets reflected. Some of that energy goes back out into space, But greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide trap the energy and send it right back to the Earth's surface, heating it up even more. This is known as the greenhouse effect. Now, a little greenhouse effect is natural to the Earth and is a good thing to have, but a large greenhouse effect can be catastrophic, causing a lot of that energy to stay in our atmosphere and heat up the Earth at an accelerating rate. Some of the main human activity that emits greenhouse gases are fossil fuel burning, animals, agriculture, and deforestation, and waste and recycle pollution. Burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, as well as gasoline, are some of the largest pollutants of carbon emissions. Not only that, but when fossil fuels are burnt and their gases mix with heat, they create smog, a thick air pollutant that is highly toxic. For example, Beijing smog is so thick and heavy that you can't go outside without some form of surgical mask or breathing filter. The massive amounts of excrement produced by livestock farms emit toxic gases such as hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, and methane into the air. Methane is 23 times more effective at trapping heat than CO2, and roughly 80% of these emissions in the US come from animal waste. Over 56 billion animals are globally raised every year for food purposes. That's 8 times more than the human population, and 8 times as much waste adding emissions to our atmosphere. Land used for growing animal feed and raising animals for food used a staggering 30% of the Earth's landmass in 2006, and the food production industry has only increased since. 7 football fields worth of land is bulldozed every minute to create more room for farmed animals and the crops that feed them. Bulldozing land and deforestation not only emits greenhouse gases, but it gets rid of plants, trees, and forests, the things on our planet that actually absorb carbon dioxide. The more we deforest our Earth, the less carbon dioxide it can absorb from our atmosphere. Solid waste landfills are some of the largest pollutants of methane gas in the United States. The average person produces 4.3 pounds of trash per day. That's 1,569 pounds of trash per year for one person. With the 7+ billion people that live on the globe, that's 11.6 trillion pounds of trash dumped into landfills every year. But how do we know that our human activity is the cause of accelerated climate change and not the Earth's natural process? Our civilizations produced a devastating 40 billion tons of carbon dioxide last year, which equals 700 trillion cubic feet of CO2. That's a little more than 100 Mount Everests of CO2. It's enough CO2 to fill the entire Grand Canyon 5 times, or it's the equivalent of 19 million Empire State Buildings. The largest natural pollutant of the Earth are volcanoes. If we take the largest scientific estimate of carbon emissions produced by volcanoes every year, that's 500 million tons of volcanic CO2. But that's not even 2% of the nearly 40 billion tons of CO2 that our civilizations produced. Over the course of thousands of years, our climate goes through a natural climate cycle of carbon dioxide being absorbed and released into the atmosphere. But once the Industrial Revolution kicked in, burning fossil fuels became the necessity of manufacture and production plants, and the CO2 level shot up violently and have not slowed down since. The Earth has not seen this much carbon dioxide in its atmosphere for millions of years. Our planet with the greenhouse effect is like a bathtub being filled with more water than it can drain. Eventually, it will fill up with more than it can handle. But why should we care about global warming and climate increasing? The Earth's temperature has risen 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit over the past century and is projected to rise another 0.5 to 8.6 degrees Fahrenheit over the next 100 years. Animals and plant life are struggling to adapt to these conditions for survival. If even one species goes extinct, it can create a domino effect with the food chain. No living plants or animals means no living humans. Rising temperatures makes the Earth's oceans become warmer, which causes something known as ocean acidification, which rises the acid levels in the oceans from the carbon dioxide reacting with the salt water. Ocean acidification harms animal life and is what's causing the death of the Great Barrier Reef. This is a problem because about 1 billion people use ocean life as their main source of protein. Since the oceans are becoming warmer, the polar ice caps are melting, which has caused almost 65% of the polar ice caps to melt since 1979. The Earth loses on average 400 billion tons of ice each year. That's like a giant block of ice 4 miles long on each side, 64 cubic miles, that melts and is added to the ocean. The oceans fill with too much water, and the shores, like in Louisiana, can't hold all that water, and coastal regions get flooded and destroyed. Climate change also causes more frequent and intense natural disasters such as hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, heat waves, and droughts. So the question is, how do we stop this? Instead of burning fossil fuels, we need to convert to renewable energy such as solar and wind power, which emit zero carbon emissions when operating. Energy from the sun and the wind are infinite. Unlike fossil fuels, we will never run out of them. More solar energy falls on the Earth in 1 hour than all the energy that our civilizations consume in 1 year. Civil engineers from the Solutions Project calculated that we could power most of the world with only renewable energy if we just actually decided to do it. If we cut back on deforestation, not only does that reduce the amount of fossil fuels burned, but there will be more plants and forests actively absorbing carbon dioxide. If we use more reusable and renewable resources, this will reduce the amount of energy needed to create new products. This will also reduce the massive amount of landfill dumping that we do. That all sounds like great, efficient, and healthy ideas, but how can I help personally right now? You can drive an electric or fuel-efficient car. Replacing your regular car with a Toyota Prius, the average person can prevent the emission of about 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, we all can't afford to just buy new and different cars. So to help, you can walk or bike places, take public transportation, or if anything, ease off the accelerator and make your car as efficient as possible. Use energy-efficient light bulbs. LED light bulbs use only a fraction of the power of incandescent light bulbs. Air dry your clothes instead of using power-guzzling machines like dryers. Turn off electronics or lights when you're not using them. Eat less meat or no meat at all. By replacing an omnivorous diet with a vegan diet, the average person can prevent the emission of about 1.5 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And of course, spread your knowledge and concerns of climate change. Remember, climate change is very real and is drastically affecting planet Earth, our home. And although we are the problem, we can also be the solution.
Yes, we can be the solution. Now, how do you find the video? Yes, it is very informative. I hope you learned something about it. Let me summarize the video. Climate change refers to any significant change in the measure of the climate lasting for an extended period of time. This includes major changes in temperature, precipitation, or wind patterns among the other effects that occur over several decades or longer. How about global warming? This refers to the recent and ongoing rise in global average temperature near Earth's surface. It is caused mostly by increasing concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Global warming is causing climate patterns to change. However, global warming itself represents only one aspect of climate change. What causes climate change? Greenhouse effect is a warming that results when the atmosphere traps heat radiating from Earth towards space. Greenhouse gas is the gas in the atmosphere that absorbs and emits radiation within the thermal infrared range, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbon. Now, what are the effects of climate change? Rising temperature, shrinking ice sheets, sea level rise, biodiversity depletion, and ocean acidification. Now, how to mitigate the effects of climate change? First, increasing carbon sequestration and conservation, use of bioenergy, reduction of changed fertilizer use, anaerobic digestion of waste, and improve energy efficiency. And before we end, let me leave you this message from the video that we watch. We are the problem, but we can also be the solution. With that, Thank you for listening, and God bless us all. Here are my references.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Dayan, for enlightening us for the second topic, climate. Sir, ang discussion ni Ma'am Dayan talagang pwede na nating ipapanood sa ating mga estudyante. No, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Talagang ipa-play mo lang 'yan, maintindihan na po nila. Sa dami ng impormasyon na pwede nating makuha mula sa discussion ni Ma'am Dayan. Sir, kayo po ba, ano po ang tumatak o nagustuhan niyo po sa presentation ni Ma'am Dayan?
Doon po sa kanyang topic, no? Kung ako ang estudyante, magiging eye-opener sa akin kung bakit may iba't ibang climate tayo kahit nasa iisang bansa lang tayo. At ganoon din kung ano-ano yung mga dahilan nito. Matututunan din ng mga bata doon sa lesson ni ma'am na ma-appreciate yung mga landforms and bodies of water na ilan sa mga dahilan kung bakit meron tayong varying climate. Kaya muli, maraming salamat po ma'am sa inyo pong presentation. Moving on to our third topic, let us call our third facilitator to discuss some teaching strategies. From Morong National High School, Mabayo Annex, Ma'am Jennifer Mangalindan. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, class. Welcome to our Zoom meeting. And before we go on to our discussions, let me remind you a few rules to follow while in the Zoom meeting. Please listen carefully. Reminders during Zoom meeting. Number 1, listen attentively. Number 2, click raise hand button if you have a question or comment. Number 3, use proper language, both spoken or typed. Number 4, participate, collaborate, and seek clarification when needed. And number 5, be courteous and polite. I hope that everyone will follow our rules in our Zoom meeting. Thank you. Okay, I am now inviting everyone to mute all your microphones for our prayer.
Let us bow our heads and let us pray. Father of light and wisdom, thank you for giving me a mind that can know and a heart that can love. Help me to keep learning every day of my life, no matter what the subject may be. Let me be convinced that all knowledge leads to you, and let me know how to find you and love you in all the things you have made. Encourage me when the studies are difficult, and when I am tempted to give up, enlighten me when my brain is low, and help me to grasp the truth held out to me. Grant me the grace to put my knowledge to use in building the kingdom of God on earth, so that I may enter the kingdom of heaven. Amen.
Amen. Okay, for your attendance, I want you to type your complete name in the chat box. Okay, our lesson for today is about constellations. And for our objective, the learner should be able to show which constellations may be observed at different times of the year using models. Okay, class, before we proceed to our new lesson, I would like you to go to kahoot.com and try to recall your past lesson about constellations by answering the 5 questions in the game. Okay, so let me now share my screen. Okay, so first thing to do is to click Classic. And then as you can see, the game pin is loading. So the game pin will be enter here. So like this, 9, 5, 2, 1, 9, 4, 7, and then press or click enter. Okay, and then after that, it will ask you to write or enter your name or your nickname, and then click OK, go. Then you will see your name here, and then click start. Okay, so ready? 2, 1. Okay, so this question is has to answer for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to click your answer here, right here. Okay, so let's start. A constellation is a group of visible blank that form a pattern when viewed from Earth. Okay, planets, stars, patterns, or creatures. Again, you're going to click your answer here. Okay, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time is up. Okay, so the correct answer is stars. Okay, and then let's go now to question number 2, and I hope you got number 1 correctly. Okay, so let's go now to question number 2. Okay, next. Okay, so question number 2. It says here, people in the northern hemisphere do see the same constellations as the people in the southern hemisphere. True or false? Okay, so you still have a lot of time to think about it. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time is up. Okay, so the correct answer is false. Okay, so I hope you get the correct answer. Okay, question number 3. Okay, question number 3. Constellations may be only visible during certain seasons due to the Earth's orbit around the blank. Okay, Earth, Mars, planet, or sun. Again, you click your answer here based on the choices. Okay, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so correct answer is sun. Okay, so let's go now to question number 4. Okay, so click next. Okay, for question number 4. Orion is visible during the winter night sky, and it contains some of the blank stars. Biggest, brightest, smallest, or darkest. Again, you need to click your answer here. Okay, so 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And time is up. The correct answer is brightest stars. Okay, so hope you got that. Okay, last number. True or false? Okay. Question number 5. Ursa Minor means little bear in Latin and is commonly known as the Big Dipper. True or false? Okay. Let's wait for the timer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time is up. Correct answer is false. Okay, so I hope you got all the correct answer. Okay, and that ends our review. Okay, so congratulations. Hope you enjoyed the game. the beginning of time, man has looked up the night sky and wondered about the stars. These points of light were once a mystery. Before man discovered all we know today about the stars and planets, they used the constellations to tell a story. Constellations are like a dot-to-dot puzzle. People connected the stars to form pictures of their gods. They also created some wonderful, mythical stories to go along with these heavenly pictures. The myths of the constellations are tales about gods and monsters, as well as villains and heroes. One may think that people don't rely on these stories anymore, but if they look closely, they just might find them sneaking into everyday life. For example, the 12 zodiac signs heard of when people talk about horoscopes have their origins in the constellations. As scientists and astronomers have learned more about the universe, we look at the stars in a much different way. Even so, the legends, gods, and myths associated with these tiny points of light that spread across the evening sky are still quite fascinating. Today, I want to share to you the myth of the constellation Aries. When it comes to Aries, there are two distinctly different stories associated with the name. One is the myth of Aries the ram, while the other is the story of the Greek god named Aries. When referring to the god, Aries is often spelled Aries. The zodiac sign of Aries is a combination of the two stories. Aries is found in Greek mythology as a god of war. He had a sister named Athena. Athena was a goddess of war, but she wasn't exactly like her brother. She was a very disciplined and strategic goddess, while her brother was destructive and chaotic. Greeks used Aries and Athena to represent the two sides of war. One god had well thought out and specific plans, while the other was sporadic with little organized planning. Greeks felt that one side of war was calculated and planned, while the other side could be out of control. Aries was well known as having a lust for blood. In other words, his thoughtless aggression and chaotic behavior often resulted in others getting hurt or losing their lives. Some of these characteristics of Aries, although not as intense, have become associated with people born under the sign of Aries the ram. These people are often thought to be spontaneous, daring, and courageous, as well as impatient. Aries the ram is a constellation that can be seen from Earth. The Greeks thought this group of stars made the shape of a ram's head. The mythology behind Aries comes from the story about Jason and the Argonauts. Jason went on a quest in search of Aries the ram's golden fleece. He needed it to prove that he was the rightful king of Iolcus. His uncle Peleus had taken the throne even though it wasn't his to rightfully take. In order to remain the king, Peleus kept Jason's father imprisoned. He would have killed Jason, but Jason's mother pretended he was already dead. Once he came of age, he tried to reclaim the throne. He was sent on a series of quests to prove his worthiness, and finding the ram's golden fleece was one of the tasks included. Although Aries the ram and the Greek god Ares have the same name, they have nothing to do with each other. They both come from Greek mythology, but Ares the god was often seen in the form of a vulture or a dog when pictured as an animal. There is one story where he turned into a boar. He was in love with Aphrodite, but the beautiful Adonis was also in love with her. He used the form of a boar to kill Adonis, but he never turned into a ram. This is one of the most famous stories of Ares. Many of his tales are pretty much the same as the stories of Roman mythology's Mars. Many consider them to be the same god.
On clear nights, look at the stars. What do you observe? Stars do appear to move across the heavens. As stars move, they seem to be attached to a great pole. This is the celestial sphere that turns around the earth each day. You will see that the stars change position each night but remain in the same patterns. These patterns have been given boundary lines. The area within a set of celestial boundary is called constellation. The spiraling of the astronomy concepts starts from the learner's awareness of the natural objects that he or she sees in the sky. You have learned about the star patterns during your elementary days. These patterns seen in the sky at different times of the year. Today, you will learn about the characteristic of stars and patterns that form from groups of stars. These patterns in the night sky appear to move in the course of the night because of the Earth's rotation. Different star patterns are seen at different times of the year because of the Earth's movement around the Sun. Constellation names, like the names of stars, come from a variety of sources, and each has a different story and meaning to it. Usually, constellations were given names based on a Greek mythology, but in recent years, constellations were derived at the scientific instruments and some unusual animals. However, there are no clear policy or rules on naming the constellations, because their stories differ from one another. The most famous constellations that were first recognized by the Greek astronomer Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century were the Orion, Ursa Major, Cassiopeia, Centaurus, and Perseus. Are the stars same in size? Are the stars same in color? Or are the stars equally bright? Thousands of stars can be seen when we look at the night. In reality, there are approximately 400 billion stars in our galaxy, and there are about 170 billion galaxies. But since stars are countless, would you believe that only 3,000 stars on the average are able to see by a human? These stars differ in many ways. They differ in sizes, brightness, and also in color. They look the same on the night sky, but if you observe them closely, they are different with one another. This picture shows the size of the Sun, closest star to the Earth, as compared to some other stars that we see at night. As you see, the Sun is so small compared to other nearby stars. Also, Sirius, which appears bigger than Rigel, is actually very small compared to Rigel. It appears larger only because it is closer to us. What does the color of the star mean? Why do stars differ in brightness? Star ranges from red to blue. The color of the star indicates its surface temperature. The brightness of a star, as seen from the Earth, depends on two factors: distance and actual brightness, or absolute brightness of the star. Let's take Sirius and Rigel to illustrate the effect of distance to apparent brightness. Sirius is about 27 times as powerful as the Sun. However, Rigel has the power of many thousands of suns. A person on Earth viewed Sirius as brighter than Rigel because it is closer to the Earth. Considering the distance from the Earth, Rigel is almost 100 times farther away from Sirius. But in terms of brightness, Sirius is about twice as bright as Rigel. Stars' absolute brightness is main concern of astronomers when comparing stars. A star's absolute brightness is the brightness the star would have if all the stars were the same standard distance from the Earth. What is a constellation? When you look at the sky, what do you see? Do you see images of animals or objects? Observers in ancient times also imagined group of stars that formed pictures of animals, objects, and people. These imaginary groups of stars are called constellations. Many of these constellations have names that can be traced back to early Babylonians and Greek civilizations. But nearly all cultures have different names for the constellations. For example, the Greeks called the large constellation Orion, which means hunter and is prominent in the sky all over the world during winter. Early Filipinos visualized the same group of stars as balatik, a trap used in hunting wild pigs. Christian Filipinos named the three stars Orion's Belt Tatlong Maria or Tres Marias. By observing the sun's movement and position in the sky, we can tell what time of the day it is. When it seems to rise in the east, it is morning. When it is above us, it is noon. When it seems to move towards the west, it is afternoon. At night, stars are used to tell the time. Just like the sun, stars also seem to move from east to west. Different star patterns throughout the year. While the rotation of the Earth on its axis causes the apparent nightly movement of the stars across the sky, the revolution is responsible for the fact that we can see different parts of the sky at different parts of the year. An observer from the Earth will be able to see the stars that are on the night side. The stars on the same side as the sun cannot be seen because sunlight overpowers all the starlight. During summer in the Philippines, the constellations of Orion and Taurus are not visible at night. They will be visible again as the cold season begins. During this time, Scorpius will not be seen in the night sky.
I want to share to you an app where to see the constellations any time of the day and anywhere you are. It is an app called Stellarium that you can download free to your cell phone and or your PC. Here are the pictures that was taken in our place in Mabayo, Morong, Bataan. And for your activity, kindly watch the following procedures.
constellations are basically groups of stars that have imaginatively been linked together to depict mythological characters, animals, and objects from mankind's past. This allowed early people to organize the night sky into a recognizable form to assist in their religious study of the celestial heavens, as well as more earthly applications such as predicting the seasons for farming, measuring time, or as a directional compass.
Okay class, I hope that you have learned a lot from our discussion for today. Okay, are you ready? So let us now have your quiz. Let me now share my screen. Here we go. So let's start. Question number 1. This constellation is well known for its association with an astrological term that was popularized in the 1960s and 1970s by the counterculture movement in the United States. Okay, Leo, Cancer, Libra, or Aquarius. So look at the picture and determine. Okay, so what is your answer? If your answer is Aquarius, yes, so your answer is correct. Okay, so let's go now to question number 2. Okay, question number 2. This familiar pattern is most easily identifiable by its two brightest stars, Castor and Pollux. It was commonly regarded as a patron of sailors. Okay, so look at the picture. Pisces, Virgo, Capricorn, or Gemini. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, if your answer is Gemini, your answer is correct. Okay, very good. So let us go now to question number 3. Question number 3. In Greek mythology, this creature was sent to divert Hercules' attention during his battle with the monstrous Hydra. None of these constellation stars are particularly bright. Okay, so Cancer, Scorpio, Leo, or Sagittarius. So look at the picture. 2, 1, 0. Okay, so what is your answer? If you answered Cancer, of course, your answer is correct. Okay, so let's now have question number 4. This group of stars is located nearby other water-related constellations and is the namesake of a southern tropic. It sits in a faint part of the night sky and is a bit difficult to view from Earth. Okay, Andromeda, Virgo, Capricorn, Cepheus. Okay, so look at the picture. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if you answered Capricorn, of course, your answer is correct. Congratulations. So let's go now to the last question. 5th question. This constellation contains 2 of the largest star clusters visible from Earth, the Hyades and the Pleiades. It is a symbol of strength and fertility. Okay. Perseus, Ursa Major, Taurus, and Orion. Okay. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you answered Taurus, you are correct. Okay, so congratulations. Well done.
For your assignment, here are the procedures to follow. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye, class. God bless you all and see you next meeting. Thank you, mga anak. I am glad and blessed to the opportunity that was given to me to be part of this division webinar series in Science 9. Let me share to you the strategies that were used in my asynchronous demo teaching during Zoom meeting class. So here are the strategies used in the demo teaching. Learning games such as kahoot.com and quizalize.com. Storytelling, mobile app such as Stellarium, graphic organizer, and build your model. I hope that this can help you give an idea in preparing your class both in synchronous or asynchronous type of learning.
Thank you, Ma'am Jennifer. Your suggestions will surely help us in presenting our lesson amidst this pandemic.
Muli po, thank you so much our dear facilitators for sharing your time and knowledge amidst your busy schedule. Tiyak pong maraming natutunan ng ating grade 9 science teachers at ang ating mga learners. Ngayon naman po, before we formally conclude our webinar, let us listen to our diligent Head Teacher 3 of Orani National High School, Maine, and the Chairman for Planning and Management Team, Ma'am Loretta S. Manabat, for her closing remarks.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning po, ma'am.
Good morning, fellow educators. This day commences another chapter of your teaching career upon further learning science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies for grade 9, math gratitude to our three facilitators who comprehensively imparted their expertise to your journey to the context of Science 9 and in some teaching pedagogies to explore with. We do hope that from these new takeaways, you will be more effective in making your students learn more amidst the pandemic which affected much our educational system. Thank you also to our EPS in Science, Sir Edwin Riel Vermilio and CIT Chief Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor for having this event possible. Congrats, Grade 9 Science Program Management Team for the job well done. Stay safe always and God bless.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Lori, for your message and for being an instrument for having this kind of webinar. We appreciate your efforts and guidance to each and every one of us. We would also like to say thank you to our leaders, headed by Dr. Roland Fronda, Sir Roderick Falurin, Dr. Milagros, and Doc Edwin. Sir, thank you so much. As well as to our Madam Chair, Ma'am Lori, Ma'am Peralta as our Assistant Chairperson, to our facilitators, Ma'am Ayi, Ma'am Dayan, Ma'am Jennifer. Also, this will not be possible without the help of our fellow workers for this webinar.
Sir Mark, pasalamatan din po natin ang ating mga kasamang sa online platform, si Sir Joriel and
Yes,
Ma'am
sir.
Lilibet. Thank you po, Ma'am and Sir. Sa atin pong program design, Ma'am Abigail and Ma'am Lady. Thank you rin po, mga ma'am. Sa atin pong Google Forms, thank you po kay Ma'am Eliza and Ma'am Pauline. Siyempre, sir, sabi mo nga kanina, hindi magiging successful ang ating webinar kung hindi rin po dahil sa effort ng ating mga kasamahan. No po, maraming salamat pong muli sa inyo, mga ma'am and sir. Sir, konting shout-out naman tayo dyan. Siyempre, unahin ko na, sir, yung aking school. Shout-out ko po ang aking Samal National High School Main, Science Department. Hello po, mga ma'am and sir. Sir, ikaw, sino pong mga isa-shoutout mo po dyan?
Yes, shout out to my co-teachers from Orani National High School, Maine, and to my fellow teachers and friends from Legua Integrated School, headed by Ma'am Caro. We would like to end this webinar with these simple words from Ronald E. Osborne. He said, "Unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow." Close quote. With that, fellow science teachers, let us continue learning and updating our skills even in the middle of this crisis. This will not only benefit our learners, but even us, their teachers. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at magandang buhay sa atin.